Hello everybody. This is the explanation and tutorial for this 900 block 6x6. It opens in 15.2 seconds. I'll show you the door real quick. I showed it briefly in my top 5 showcase video I just made the other day, but I thought I'd make an explanation and tutorial since I haven't really made an explanation video of any of my doors. But anyways, here's the opening. The bottom uses a different sequence than what most 6x6s use because it doesn't pull the bottom row down again to power the storage blocks. It just has some good timings, as you can see. But anyways, so I'm not really gonna go into the tutorials you need. Just I mean, if you want, you can follow along and like tally it up. I don't know. I don't have the schematic saved. Anyways, you'll need a 5x9 by I think 19 area and your door frame is going to be 5 blocks up, and then the sixth one will be where your door starts. And then just, oh, sorry, it needs to be 5 by 10 by 19. And then just build this up. And I'm going to have to kind of look back and forth quite a bit for this. But anyways, for the layout, it's basically the same as any 6x6. Quad at bottom. And then for storage, you just have this with blocks in here. And then for the side, you have 5 on the side and then another on top here. And then on this side, it's just 6 all the way up. And then you also have, sorry, you have quads going down like this. And then storage is also on this side. So your piston layout should look like this. And I'm going to start with the top closing. So that is going to be in blue. So actually, I got to start with the input circuit. Sorry. So for the input circuit, you're going to go 2 blocks out from here and place a lever. And then block there. Get you some dust. And then some slabs. And then the reason we have this piston up there is not for an update, really. We just needed it for this, for the to fix locationality for the top. So yeah, so you're gonna have that there, and then let me look at this real quick. So and then you're gonna have a observer going out like that, and then I think it's three observers going down, and then a 2-tick repeater right there. And then for the other side, actually I should probably do the top closing before I do the other side. Anyways, that's that side wired basically, and then I'm gonna get this side wired. So you're gonna get your blue wool and go 2 blocks up like this with dust on both of those. And then you want a note block, an observer, and then for the storage, I got this from Wolfie Namira on Synergy, so shout out to her. And then you're gonna have blocks going like this, and this is actually gonna be one down. So, and then for the storage, you want to update it at a certain point. So you're gonna put that there, and another updater right there, and then as well you're gonna have an updater right there. And then for this top row, you're gonna just have dust like that. And basically what this will do is on if you pulse it with a 1-tick, it won't power storage because it doesn't have time to like it doesn't have time, so this powers, and this has time to actually power for this to update. So I'll just demonstrate that real quick. So as you can see, but if we power it like, oh wait, shit, sorry. So if you, I think I might be a little confused. Oh yeah, I have to power from down here. So if you just power it like that, it won't, well that time it did, because we have the two, hold on, I gotta like explain this better. I'm not used to making explanations. Basically, if you want to take this, the storage won't fire because it does funky shit. And that's how we do the quad with these inputs. And then we're just gonna um, have another. Actually, where is this thing? So that's basically the stored pulse. It's linked to our um, closing because we want two pulses on closing, and then one of them is linked to the quad extension, so that does that. And then we have an observer there. Actually, I'm gonna have that there for now, and then place that. Uh, and then on top of this, you're gonna have a nut block piston with an observer on its face, and then you're gonna get a hopper right there. Then you want a block there, and then you out of that hopper we placed, you want two more observers. So that should do your storage. And then to do the closing, like do that, we want to get kind of like a latch here. So we push it down later in the quad to deactivate it. Makes our lives much easier. So you're gonna have a furnace there with an item in it. And then you're gonna have, I think, two vortex. Yeah, two vortex. And then you're gonna have a big chunky observer chain over here, and then you're gonna have another input right here. So that should do basically your whole closing. So if we want, we can test that. Well, top closing, I guess. So it should do that, and then on opening, it just won't do anything because we don't have the falling edge linked up yet, which controls most of the rest of the quad. So you can just reset this. So for the falling edge, it's not one of those zero input delay. It does have some, but it's nothing insane. Basically, we just have a dropper right here, and then I think it's two observers coming out of this, and I can't quite remember what I had here. Okay, so, and then you have a block here with dust there, slab there, and then you actually want a repeater here, and then these are all door blocks. Then you want a one tick repeater here, and then a two tick repeater there. So that should do your falling edge. And then now we are in the quad retracting circuit, which is pink. So after you've done that, you're going to just come out from this block with a 4-tick repeater, and then you're gonna get a two observers coming out like that, and then uh, an observer going up like this, two more observers going like that, and then you want a block here and a slab right there with dust on its face, and then These repeaters are at 2 ticks. So that will basically make it so, oh shit, I accidentally broke those blocks. Don't break those blocks. So basically, with that, your pistons will be like here. And then for the final bit of the topper traction, it's nothing really complicated. Basically, you need to push down that latch from earlier, and it'll do that. In fact, I'm gonna just flick that now, and then as you can see, it'll trigger again. But the second time, it'll pull this up, and then this will pulse. So, okay, I've got to figure out what the fuck I'm doing. Okay, so basically, you're gonna go to that dropper from earlier, and you're gonna place a block, I mean, an observer facing out of it, another observer, and then you're gonna have a block here, a block there, and then you want to get a target right here, and you're gonna have dust here, 3-tick repeater there, and then you want uh, dust on top of both of those. And then we basically just need the final, like, pulse, I guess. Like, final pulses of the quad. There's like 2 more. So basically, the way we do that is a giant fucking line of repeaters. Fun, right? I'm gonna be honest, I don't know why this target blocks here. I don't foresee what it would really do. Probably just something I forgot to take out. But anyways, have wool there, and then you're gonna have 3 4-ticks, then a 2-tick, then a 3-tick. I'm pretty sure, yep. And then for the refire circuit, you're gonna have a block here, and then you're gonna get your green wool, which is the refire circuit. You're going to place wool like that, and a dust 3-tick. Then you're also going to have a block here with a 1-tick repeater. And then to update this dropper and the refire thing, you're going to use a rail. Fun. And then you're going to have droppers facing like that. And this is basically just so it fires twice. And then in this, you're going to get an item in this and an item in this. They don't have to be swords, it doesn't really matter, but I just use swords because I like using swords. So I'll demonstrate kind of what this will do really quick. So if I just get a quick mock-up here. With that and that. And then we have an observer detecting when the comparator activates. So basically, the first time we pulse it, it'll fire. Then the second time we pulse it, it'll fire. But the third time we pulse it, oh wait, fuck. Do I have these facing the right way? Uh, I'm slightly confused. Maybe it has to be a rail. Yeah, see, okay. It just had to be a row. But anyways, it'll only trigger 2 times out of every... Wait, what the fuck? Oh, wait, nothing's... What the fuck? Okay, I'm gonna try doing that. Maybe that has to be on 3 ticks. Alright, so the first time it'll go, the second time it'll go, third time it will not, then first time, second time, third time. So yeah, that does that. That's what I use in a lot of my refires actually. So, pretty neat. Then we have a comparator here, as I mentioned previously. And then we have blocks there. And then we have a 3-tick repeater, 1-tick repeater. And we just get a slab here, block, and then that'll do your extra move. And then we have this block here. And to get the, I'm just gonna do tape control real quick. So put a piston there with an observer on its face, and then just put those blocks there. And then you have a nut block and another piston with another observer, and then you have that there, and that there. So that'll do your tape control, and then you have a 4-tick repeater, and then you have a piston with a composter, just like fill it with seeds or something. My personal favorite is carrots, because that way they don't take 7 years to fill up. But anyways, you're gonna have a block right here, and then a comparator with a 1-tick and a 4-tick, and then you're gonna just have blocks there, there. And then remove this observer temporarily, just so it doesn't trigger shit that you don't want to trigger. And then you're gonna get a dest here with a note block there, and I think that's the entire top basically done. I'm just gonna wire the other side real quick, because that's wired from the top. So you're gonna have observers facing out of that, and then a piston uh, with an observer on its face, and then a hopper, and then this is a lot of observer spam, just warning you. And then you have an observer facing up like this, and then just go all the way down like this basically. And then you're gonna get your red wool, because this is technically part of the input circuit. So that'll do your other side, because basically this line pulses 4 times throughout the whole door. So on closing, like I said before, it pulses twice. So it'll do that. Wait, actually no. It'll I might be tripping. Oh, I know. Yeah, I see. It doesn't have that. I'm just slow. So it'll do that, which will pulse it once, and then on the opening, this sword will cycle, and then that sword will cycle. So it opens once, closes once, so it doesn't flicker a bunch. And then you can just fill this in, and then we can test it real quick. So it should do that. Actually, wait, I forgot to wire this extra side piston. So to do that, just observers facing down like that, and that'll bud. So, and then for the opening, just do that, and then make sure you pull the blocks in like that. And as you can see, the side will do its thing. So yeah, that's your top done. Now for the bottom, it's also pretty simple. I'm gonna get the input links set up. So for those, you're gonna have a slider on, you're gonna have a piston here and another piston here with pistons. I'm gonna break these temporarily with pistons all like that, and then you can just replace these. And then you're gonna have a block there with a, I can't remember which way, okay, with a piston facing that way, and then a 4-tick repeater there, an observer there, and then blocks all along here. And basically it does um, it does kind of the same thing as this sort of setup, which I'll set up. So it basically does the same thing roughly as this sort of setup, but instead of doing the where it pushes up with the 2-tick, it does something like this, and then you just have an extra pulse of storage to power it again. And then, yeah, that does that. And then for this, this input link is literally just about a lifesaver. So, yeah, you're gonna have a 4-tick here, an observer facing up, an observer facing that way, and then a dust right there. And then I just gotta double check the orientation of some of these pistons. Okay, so you're gonna have an observer facing out like that, a piston there, an observer facing up that way and that way. And then we're gonna start with these inputs. So also this doesn't need to be a slab, so that won't be a slab. This also doesn't need to be a slab. It's just something I forgot to replace. So these are all activator rails or powered rails, it doesn't matter. And then you have observers facing up all along here. And then right here is 2 1-ticks and then an observer right there. And then for this bottom storage, we have another slider. Yay, sliders, fun. And then we have a piston there. So that's all the inputs. And basically, all we need to do for this whole bottom is we do this, and then we, oh wait, shit, I did something wrong. Oh yeah, that's right. So usually you want to have your observers facing the right way up. That's generally advised. But I live outside of societal norms, so anyways, you're gonna have a block here. So now it should work. So you're gonna power this once, so that'll do that storage, and then we just power that, and that pushes that up again. And then we come over here after this powers, and we power this, and then essentially we just pulse this again. And then the top will push this down, so it'll be like that. And then we repeat those pulses, so it'll do that. And then we just, oh wait, shit. I forgot to put an updater piston there, so I'm just gonna move this back. It would be there if I was smart and I did things right. And then that'll do that, and then we just come back over here, which is already still part of closing. And then we pulse this. And then the tape will fire, so, la 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 la. And then it'll pull down automatically, and then tape detection will pull that back. And then this is where the real magic happens. This little tiny circuit does about 90% of the quad attraction. Oh wait, shit. I messed something up. Oh yeah. So, you want a slab here. And then you can just replace these. And you also want another rail here. So if we just put these back to where they were before I made a whoopsie, and then we just update this observer, that'll do that, as you can see. I'm just gonna break that because I didn't break it in time. And then literally all we do is we power this again, and that's all bottom. So let's do that, yo. So for the storage, it's pretty simple. Um, Basically just have a block here. You can fill in some of these blocks. And then we have a observer there with another block here. And then you want that there. Don't mind the dinging in the background. It's probably someone on Synergy mentioning me because I'm so famous and popular. And then for the other storage pulse, we do this. We do more observers because we love observer spam. Observer spam is the best. And then that's basically all. That's almost all for that. For the rest, it's mostly over here. So we come, I gotta frickin' remember how the hell to do this. Okay, so we come over here under this, and then we place a dust on this. Wait, did I? Okay, I set that to the right amount of text. Okay, and then we just have another set of observers going out from here, and he's going to a 4-tick. Wait, shit. Okay, sorry, that's an observer there too, and then a 4-tick on top of it with a block, and then we have a piston with an observer 1 block away from it facing up, and then that should be basically your whole closing. And you can test that if you want. You can just break this observer. So yeah, it should do that. And then on opening, it'll do this. So, and then that brings us on to our tape circuit. Fun! Woohoo! Um, so for that, you're gonna have a piston there. Wait, no. I'm smart, I swear. Okay, so, sorry. I'm not smart. You have a piston there, and then another piston there, and then another piston there. Wait, no, sorry, it's there. And then another piston there. So that's that done. And then you also want to fill in these blocks. And then you have a redstone block there. And for the tape, it's just, it's pretty simple. It's nothing out of the ordinary. Just dust there for that. And then you want to get a torch. And then for the other piston, we have a glass block there with a torch on it, and then a piston with a block on it, and then another torch and another dust. And then for the other side, actually, wait, I'm gonna get tape detection real quick. So for tape detection, we just do note block there with, there's also a block with dust and a note block. I don't know if you saw me place that. And then piston there, and then an observer there. And then we have a hopper right here with a hop observer, another block. And then to get that extra storage pulse, we uh, come over here with a block there, and then we have a hopper right there, and then an observer and a block there. So that is that side of your tape circuit done. For the other side, this side is slightly locational, so bear that in mind, but it's a very easy fix. We just need an extra tripwire hook. Um, so you have dust here, block there. Actually, no, target block there. Like all my doors, because all my doors are great. I swear. And then you have, um, fuck, where are my yellow blocks? Okay. And then you have another torch here with dust. And then I'm pretty sure that's all for that. So yeah, that's your tape circuit done. And then that should fire now that we have the tape control already. So now we just need the quad retraction. So fun, let's do that. Um, for that, we just, hold on, I gotta use my brain, my enormous cerebellum, uh, which is also coincidentally not very enormous for cerebellum. Also, uh, there's like kind of another side of tape detection. So we come over here with a comparator, and basically that'll only turn on because we only want to take the slime before the tape. So this will only turn on while the tape is going. So it's a pretty good way to do tape detection. And then we have a hopper here. Just gonna break this observer, and then that there, and that'll do most of our quad retraction. Now we just need that extra pulse, which we get from over here. So let me just triple check my list, check it twice, yada yada yada. So we're gonna have observers facing that way, and then you want dust on both of these. Make sure you don't have. Okay, so yeah, it'll kind of spaz out because I triggered the tape detection, but now you know that works. Uh, so now you just go down this way, then down like that, down like that. Wait, okay. Okay, I've got that. And then you come down over here. Observer, observer, observer. You get the gist. And that should be the door done. So you can test that. Should close fine. And then with opening, it should also open fine. Oh yeah, so it's locational in this location. But now I get to show you the fix. So I'm going to re reset this so it's not being dumb and stupid. Uh, you can basically just reset those blocks there and then place the redstone block back like that and it'll open fine. So for the locational fix, you place a glass block right here and then where's the tripwire hooks? There's the tripwire hooks. So now it should work because I'm a pro redstoner. Wait a damn minute. It was, I swear to God, it was synced before. Am I tripping? Hold on. I'm gonna look at that again just to like triple check that I did thing correct. Yeah, I don't know how that's going faster now. That is so strange. Uh, okay. Well, ultimately it's the same speed, but that's kind of odd. Why is that? Uh, hmm. I'm gonna look at that one more time. You can feel free to click off the video. I'm just slightly confused. Seems like it's just faster in this location. That is strange. Very strange. But okay, sure. We'll go with that. Anyways, odd, but that's the tutorial and explanation. Hope you guys enjoyed.